I'm back. I'm back. Howdy folks, and welcome back to Making a Fakemon region. The show where I'd make a fictional land and fill it up with even more fictional creatures based around the real life cultures of planet Earth. Now, as I'm sure you've noticed, the past few videos my voice was getting kind of worse and worse, and well yeah, I've been sick for like 4 months, so, and last month was where it was to the point where I just couldn't record anymore because it wasn't a bad illness, it was just that it was annoying to cough every 2 seconds, so I didn't want to record. And then 2 months later, we're now here. I want to apologise for missing Spooky Month. I had a bunch of cool videos planned. Sadly, they're going to have to wait. I'm not going to wait until next Halloween. They'll be here eventually, but for now, oh well. So this episode is just going to be a catch-up episode where I'm going to do a couple of monsters based around some of the holidays or events over the past month, what I've missed. So, yay, finally video. It's not going to be about every event that I've missed, because I've missed quite a few. I've at least gotten ideas down for monsters, but for this episode, I woke up with a sore throat again, and I thought I was finally getting better, so I don't know if I'm going to be better or not, so I wanted to get this video quickly done before I get ill again and miss another few months. Okay? Okay. So we've got 5 Halloweeny monsters, what I should have done in Halloween, but we're doing them now on the 21st of November at the time of recording this. Better late than never, I say. Let's jump into it. So since Halloween is meant to be the spooky month, I thought it'd be fun to make some monsters based around fears. More specifically, my fears. What am I scared of mostly? Spiders and light bulbs. I know, right? Who's scared of spiders? That's weird. But anyway, I thought it'd be fun to, you know, make a creepy little monster out of the two. So let's jump into it. I do have a few other monsters based around my other friends' fears. However, that was going to be saved for a proper big spooky Halloween episode. Again, it's not going to wait until next Halloween. It'll probably be here around early next year. But still, I'm not making any promises because I'm sure you've noticed I'm not good with keeping the times. So yeah, spider light bulb. From the beginning, I knew I liked the idea of, since the spiders have, I believe it's an abdomen, the big back, the rear end. Gosh, you can tell I've not recorded in a while. So from the early, I like the idea that instead of it being a big spider bottom, I like the idea that it was in fact a light bulb. You know, I had that idea for a while. I thought it'd be fun, and then I like the idea that again, wires are important in electric. So spiders have long, creepy legs. Long dangly wires for legs. Again, I thought that's cute. And I remember reading about something. I don't research spiders too often on account of me being scared of them. However, I believe there's a few spider types their webs can actually conduct electricity. I'm not sure how true that is, but I thought that could play into the fact that this spider creates webs what conduct electricity. Its body can't actually conduct it like well itself, so it keeps shocking itself. So it makes a glass case, because I believe some spider web can be as strong as like steel. So I like that, you know, this spider can wield a glass case. So it makes a glass bulb for itself to store all of its electric powers in it. So the body itself is just the 2 little front segments, and the back light bulb looking part is just a ball for it to store its energy in. Right? I thought that was cute. Whilst designing it, I also did realise I was embodying some tick aspects, as ticks and spiders I believe are closely related, and I didn't realise, but when I first finished the first design, I realised that there is a Pokemon what's also exactly based off a spider, a tick, an electric, Joltik, and Galvantula. I didn't think about that when I started this, but again, I think it's cool how you can have 2 people with same 3 concepts and still have completely different things. I thought that was kind of cute. It's one of the main reasons why I love seeing other people's Fakemon designs, because, you know, sometimes you can see very similar ideas create completely different things. That's cute to me. So yeah, back to the tick bit. Since I wanted to make it kind of creepy, because I realised it did look a little bit too cute, and I wanted it to be somewhat creepy for Spooky Month. So I like the idea that since ticks burrow in people's skin, I like the idea that this burrows into other animals and actual people and harnesses their power to power the light bulb. So it looks like if you're infected with them, it looks like you're growing gross light bulbs on you. I just thought that would be a really gross image, just people with light bulbs growing all over them. I doubt it'd ever get to the point where there's like a bunch of them, but if you see one light bulb on you, just flick it off, you know. Yeah, grim. So here is Electic, the electric little spider bulb thing. Ain't he cute? He is weirdly cute, despite me wanting to make him creepy. Let's evolve him. Now, serious apology time. I'm looking at both their designs now, currently, whilst recording the, voiceover or whatever. I'm not actually talking whilst I'm drawing these, that'd be, I doubt anyone would assume that. Either way, these don't have 8 legs, and spiders, being arachnids, have 8 legs, and these don't. Oops. I'm trying to think about it. I don't know if the other Pokemon, spider-based Pokemon, actually have 8 legs either. Because I drew these two specifically a while ago. These were meant to be for an early actual October episode, so I haven't actually looked at these deeply in a while. So I don't remember if me not including 8 legs was on purpose to make them not as scary or not, but either way. So a main thing I wanted to include in the evolution was, a few years ago, a long time ago, I was making another Fakey-Dex, and I had this idea for a light bulb Pokemon, and I liked the idea that when it evolved, it became an electric fire type because its power got too strong, and it melted the glass around it, expanding the glass and even growing what looked like horns on it. I really liked that idea. So I wanted to embody that here because I feel like we've got Peb in this region, what's literally a rock with eyes. I didn't really want to do a light bulb with eyes. I drew a sprite for it. I'll show it on the screen if I can find it, but I doubt I'll actually include it because it is just a light bulb with eyes. And I've got the horn, light bulb, devil horn thing imagery here. I imagine these things being a lot bigger than Electics. Big enough that I doubt they could burrow into you and show a giant light bulb. I feel like you would definitely notice before them burrowing into you. I like to think that these, instead of organic things, they burrow into giant power plants or just car batteries and things. Siphon all the electricity, although I think it gets a bit morbid to the point where if they get too much power, their light bulb will explode, because I feel like it's so hot and powerful in there. It's very fragile as well. The glass casing isn't it's not strong enough to keep all the power in it, so it's like a glass tank, a glass cannon, that's the phrase. I also like the imagery that it is the light bulb with the little screw thing. I don't know how obvious it is, but it looks like an actual light bulb. I also realised looking at the sprite that it's only got 2 legs holding it up. I like to think that it just has really strong front legs to keep it up. It's like when it stands up on its 2 front legs, it is just like a light bulb with sporadic wires, what zap people, and it's got the 2 electric fangs. Yeah, this is a Zapnid, a mix between Zap and Arachnid. I wanted to think of a better name for him, but I honestly couldn't. I think the original idea was Wireder, as in wired and spider, but like when I spelled it out, it did just look really weird and wireder. Okay. So yeah, a Zapnid, at least for now. So we've got monsters based on fears based around Halloween. Let's go into Halloween traditions. Witches. Witches are a really interesting thing to think about in history because at the moment, at this point in time, they're kind of a pop culture icon. But back then, it was a death sentence if you were deemed a witch. I don't believe they were necessarily real, but people trying to look for answers about the mythical will just blame it on witches. These apples are growing mouldy? Why, it can't be because we left them out in the rain for 2 weeks straight. It has to be because of witches. Let's go and burn the old lady across the street. It has to be her fault, surely. Things like that. But I believe it mostly was to do with witches trying to connect to the ghostly world, right? Which is how it brings its relation to Halloween. Halloween was meant to be, I believe, the end of the summer harvest. It was to bring in the winter, essentially. Or autumn, even. And it was to say, after the summer harvest and the autumn and winter months start to come in, the barrier between the living world and the not living world, the line would be a lot thinner and you would be able to connect to it, I suppose, right? Which I suppose is where most witches' stories come from. It started with that. At least to my understanding of it. By all means, feel free to do your own research, and if you want to call me out for something I get wrong, please do. But anyway, so whilst researching some old Halloween traditions to do with witches, I found out a little ceremony with an apple, a candle, and a mirror. On Halloween night, a girl, or a witch, or whoever, would, whilst combing their hair, would peel an apple in front of a mirror by candlelight in one long continuous strip. They would then throw the apple skin behind their back, and whichever way the apple skin would fall would create the first letter of their future husband's name. There are different versions of the story, will include different aspects, but that's the main gist of it. And since it was Halloween, I wanted to do a monster based around candy apples as well. Finding this apple folklore story seemed like the perfect match. And I want to stress again, I say this more or less every episode, I'm not that great of an artist. And here, I struggled a lot getting the base design down for this apple witch, because I had a few designs down, but I just couldn't get any of the main shapes right. I've got around, I think, 40 minutes of footage, what I'm not going to show, mostly because I deleted it in anger once I gave up drawing it, and then the second attempt, it was very sloppily done, because I didn't really expect me to keep going with it, but I did, either way. So yeah, keep in mind, I'll probably redraw this at some point with a better idea down, but for now, just, you know, go easy on it. The one idea I did like was that old-timey dresses would have the large rear end again, and I like the idea of it being like an apple dress, what it looked like the back of their bodies were an apple. I thought that was cute, and then they'd have a stick for the candy apple. That was the main idea I had. Again, saying it out loud, it reminded me a lot of Brakeson, I think its name was, from X and Y, with the stick in its tail, except they can't pull that stick out. It is part of their... It's like a dress, because I realised I struggled getting down the witch robe with the apple design, so I thought, at least this dress kind of gives off the impression of a powerful female, which I guess in some cases witches are powerful magic females, so I like that idea. And then I like the idea that instead of a witch's hat, it's like the top of an apple with the stalk, and I like the idea that the main body is like the apple core. When the design finishes, you'll see that it looks like the main yellow apple body, it hides in the bottom apple bit, and the top melds into it, and it looks like a dropped candy apple. I really like that imagery. I like the idea that it fits into the lore. I like the idea that these little guys disguise themselves as dropped candy apples. Similar to how a bunch of children's stories involve witches, I like the idea that there's also a children's story of, you know, be careful not to drop your candy apples on the road, because, well, if you pick up the wrong one, it could be a magic apple witch and she'll place a curse on you. Be careful. I also like the lore of every night on Halloween night, or whenever summer ends and autumn begins, a bunch of these fellas gather around in a circle. They all grab one apple and they peel it using their magical powers in one strip. They use their magical powers to fling it into the sky, and whichever way it lands will create the first letter of their future trainer's name. And then after that, they spend the rest of their lives looking and searching for that trainer. I like the idea that to mix the idea of a candle and a mirror in there, they make a little campfire using like burnt old apple cores or whatever, and then the mirror aspect is that since there's a bunch of them in a circle, they're essentially looking in a mirror because they all look the same, so they're looking at themselves, all of them. They all fling the apple skin behind them. They'll see their future trainer's name. So this is Magipple, a mix between magic and apple with mage as well. Maybe it's Magipple or Magipple. I wanted to call it Enchapple, but I think that didn't really work too well. I feel like Magipple just sounds kind of better. What do you all think? So anyway, Magipple has a split evolutionary line. As I mentioned, it spends the rest of its life looking for its possible trainer. So there's two possible evolutions, whether it finds its trainer or doesn't. Let's find the happy evolution where it does find its trainer. If it finds its trainer, I suppose it will evolve through happiness. This is definitely based more so on the candy apple aspect, as she's sweet, she's lovely, she's got motherly instincts. I like to think she cares for her trainer and the other Fakemon in the team. She likes to heal and look after people. She just likes to make people laugh and have a grand old time. I like to think that, in fact, they get so happy sometimes they excrete this happiness nectar. I wanted to include a way to get apple juice in there or something. So if she gets so happy, she literally excretes liquid happiness, essentially. It's like a syrup. I like the idea that there's even like happiness farms, because I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but in a previous episode there's a previous Fakemon, Kitty Pillar. They essentially do the same thing where they also excrete this happiness nectar. So I like the idea that maybe there's happy farms where people bring their kitty pillars and apple witches, make them happy, bottle up the juice, and they get a lot of profit out of it. It's not harmful to them, obviously. You can't force them to be happy, but yeah, I thought that'd be a cute little idea. Now, her dress does now kind of make her look a bit like a slug. In the first evolution, it was fine, because I guess they were short enough anyway. But now it looks like they don't actually have any legs. They just have a weird sluggy bottom. I think they do have legs, And if they do stand up, like, they only stand up if they absolutely need to. They just, like, their legs are tucked up in their body, maybe. So they can extend their legs, and I guess they would be, like, twice the height, because that's how legs work. But they prefer to just, I guess their legs just kind of wiggle around. I didn't think about it, but I think they do have legs. It is, treat it as a dress. You just don't see their legs because they just don't like to use them. Because maybe it's something to do with the fact that since they excrete so much happy nectar, if they use their legs too much, they tend to slip over on them. So they just tuck their legs up using magical powers or something. I guess I'll actually mention the green and pink. The yellow is meant to be their actual body. I like to think that they've carved, from a young age, they've obviously carved and skinned apples to make this like dress type of thing. So that green and pink is, I guess, their magical. It's like a robe and dress, right? It's clothing essentially. It's not actually part of them. I don't think. It's like a shell, like an actual apple shell, right? That's the way I would see it anyway. I also didn't know whether or not to give them hair. I like the idea of maybe giving them one like sappy, like maybe like like toffee hair or something, or like sweetie hair. Or I realised I didn't know if it would have been too much, too cluttered, or she just looks fine without it. I think they're alright without it, right? Again, you gotta let me know what you all think. So anyway, yes, this is Adorceress, a mix between adore and sorceress. Adore because she loves everything, she's adorable and she adores everything. And sorceress because she is a witch. So that's the happy evolution. Let's find out what happens if a Magipul doesn't find their trainer. There's no necessary time limit for a Magipul to find their trainer, but after long enough, they will just give up trying to find their friend, and go sour. They're not necessarily sad about it, it's just the way they've grown up. They've grown too used to being lonely to the point where they don't care about finding friends anymore now. So they're mean, they're gross, they're rotten, from the inside and out. You don't really notice it until much later in the drawing, but I also wanted to include some candle and mirror imagery into this, as the happy evolution was more candy apple. I wanted this to be more of the original witch story, so she's a lot more blacker and darker. And she has like cracks in her body. Again, I added it in near the end, but it's meant to represent the whole she's shattered now that she's so lonely, like how a mirror would be. And the top of her witch hat is now shriveled and burnt up at the top. You know, it looks like flames in a weird way, right? Right. Her apple dress is ripped open and there's a bunch of evil dark magic flowing out of it. I like that imagery of it being like a rotten apple spewing out poisonous gas, but instead it's a dress spewing out all this dark energy and magic. I did struggle on the colours a bit because I wanted to make them look like a mouldy, rotten, abandoned apple, but at the same time not make it look too gross or too... I wanted it to be dark, but not too dark, and kind of gross, but not too gross. You know, I wanted there to be a balance. I wanted it to obviously be the opposite of the Happy Witch. I kind of had this idea of, if anyone remembers the Wizard of Oz, there was the Good Witch and the Wicked Witch, right? So I kind of wanted that idea going on. So I wanted them to be clearly opposite, but clearly similar enough. So yeah, these, they are mean, but they're not necessarily unlovable. I like to think that you can still tame them and look after them. They're not necessarily giving up on finding love in general, they're just giving up on looking for their trainer, and they just rather be alone now, right? It's not a sad thing, it's more of a, that's just who they are now. I also like the idea of, since these only evolve into this form when they can't find their trainer, I like the idea that this form can only be found in the wild. If you catch a Magipul, you will never be able to evolve it into this one. You can only find them in the wild, because they can only evolve like that in the wild, right? I thought that'd be a cute little idea. I'll also admit I struggled with the names because, for those who remember the previous videos, I do also have other witch-inspired monsters, my water starters. So it was weird thinking of names because every name I kept thinking of kept sounding too similar to Excentress and Sirech. I mean, I say that Adorceress sounds like Excentress, and this one, Sourwrench, sounds a bit like Sirech. Maybe that's a cute little opposite because these are apple witches and they were water witches, you know, grass and water opposite. I don't know. I'm just one guy doing these. Give me a break. But as I said, this is Sourwrench, a mix between sour and wrench. Sour because it's an apple that's on sour, and wrench sounds a bit like witch, and wrench is a term for if you're leaving someone, sadly, you've left them in a wrench. So these are the apple witches. What do you think of them? I'm really proud of them. I like the idea that both of them have a special ability, what allows them to essentially have 3 types instead of 2. The good witch would be plant, sugar, and magic type, whilst the evil witch will be plant, fire, and dark type. Why do they get 3 types instead of 2? It's witchcraft! Right, so now moving on from the Halloween, there was one more day what I missed whilst I've been away. The Day of the Dead. In most cultures, or most people, or depending on which way you see life, death can be a pretty sad thing. It's the idea of never seeing someone again, it's the fact of just being gone, you know? It scares a lot of people. I guess that's why we tell ghost stories, because the idea of death is inherently scary. But not everyone sees it that way. There's several cultures that see death in different lights, but for now we'll talk about the Day of the Dead's belief. Well, Mexican belief. From my research, at least, Mexican tend to be a bit more relaxed to the idea of death. It's not necessarily a goodbye, it's more of a until we meet again. It's something what is meant to be celebrated. It's that famous saying of they're not sad because they've ended, they're happy because they've happened, you know? So, they celebrate a holiday called the Day of the Dead. It's not just a Mexican thing, I believe several other cultures do it as well, but it originated in Mexico. So they celebrate life and death, you know, the mixing of both, because, well, that's what life is, isn't it? It's not just about the life you live, it's the death you'll leave behind as well, in some respect, right? Now, there is a lot about Mexican culture what I could make monsters about. Again, there will be a whole episode about it at some point, but for now, let's just make one for the Day of the Dead. When researching the Day of the Dead, I learned about a thing called sugar skulls. They are just little sweets in the shape of skulls. They're usually made to represent a departed loved one, and are typically placed around the loved one's gravestone or an altar made for them. It's meant to be a gift for them in some respect, right? Now, Pokemon's no stranger to the idea of Pokemon being based around real-life dead people. So I like the idea of having a fictional monster what was based around the spirit possessing a sugar skull. So let's say on the Day of the Dead, family members will leave sugar skulls on their, lost ones' graves, and if the spirit is happy enough with what it was given, it will possess the sugar skull and become this little Fakemon guy. So I like the idea of it being a spirit with a little skull head on it. I was doing a bit of research and found out that different colours represent different things when decorating sugar skulls. And I found out that pink and white can illustrate hope, purity and celebration. So I like the idea of making it a bright, happy pink skull, because to bring home the fact that in Mexican culture, death isn't necessarily a bad or sad thing. There's another ghost Fakemon I've got called Yu, and I wanted the idea of, since that's a dark and somewhat sad idea of a ghost, I wanted this to be the opposite, where it's all bright and happy. It's a happy spirit. I also learned that in Mexican culture, marigold flowers are extremely popular in the Day of the Dead, and I wanted to include some on its design. Since it is sprite form, I couldn't really show too many, but I like the idea that its spirit body is covered in some marigold flowers, as they were also left for the spirit to possess. But again, in sprite form, it's not too obvious, but I like to think that if there was ever like a proper drawing of it, they would be more clearly marigold flowers. I also realised that the top of his head was a bit too, well, there was nothing there. I realised the design looked a bit too simplistic. So I added some Quetzalcoatl feathers. I think I pronounced that name right. I tried to. I gave this head feathers in reference to Uncle Jalapeno from Little Big Planet. Alright, it wasn't just that. It was the fact that since the spirit's body was also kind of serpent-like, I like the idea of having a serpent with feathers that kind of worked into the Quetzalcoatl nature, and especially since the monster is meant to be a symbol of, well, death and resurrection, which is the whole point of this monster in some regard. So here we go. This is Fantazuka, or Fantazuka, or Fantazuka, or whichever way you want to pronounce it. The name comes from azúcar, which is sugar in Spanish, and fantasma, which is ghost in Spanish. So it essentially means sugar. It's a mix between sugar ghost in Spanish. So yeah, I hope you like him. Now, before this episode ends, we've got 3 Shushies to get through. So let's just quickly finish those off. First Shushie was the rock type Shushie, and I was meant to include that in the last episode because it was a cave episode. I wanted there to be a rock Shushie. I want to say I forgot. I realistically probably just couldn't do it because my throat was just giving out at the time and I couldn't speak. So I had to leave it, but I'm going to do it now. So here you go, watching it is the rock type Shushie. I like the idea of it being all buff with rock on it and everything. Yeah, boom. Love it. Anyway, the 2 actual ones for this episode. Since the 2 main themes of this episode were Halloween and the Day of the Dead, let's make the Shushie a ghost type this episode. Oh, and since we also missed my birthday, and since it's the channel's birthday 1 year very soon, in a week I believe, let's make a birthday Shushie as well. So the ghost type Shushie, I wanted to make it all Like the other Shushis, for those who don't know, they're little collectible mons of each and every type, but they're all meant to be cute and plasticky. So the ghost type isn't literally a ghost, it was manufactured to look like a ghost, so I like the idea that it's just a little sheet ghost thing meant to look all cute. And the birthday Shushi isn't necessarily birthday, it's more of a celebration Shushi, because not everyone celebrates birthdays. So, you know, this could be given if you got really good grades on your last exam, or if you won something, or if it is your birthday or something, you know? I wanted to make sure it wasn't necessarily one type. I actually really like the birthday idea because, you know, the pie hat and the candle, I mix those together. Its arms are like those party blowers and they're all long and cartoony, and I just love it. And yeah, I don't want them to be bad. You know, like in most Pokemon games, you've got like Pokemon with really cool gimmicks like Kecleon, Castform, and Unknown, but they just end up being really, really not usable in any way, shape, or form. So these Shushis, I think I've mentioned before, but I want them to be actually viable and good because I think they're really cute, and I want people to use them basically. But yeah, there wasn't too much to say about these designs. They're just cute little plasticky Shushis, I guess, right? So yeah, and then that's all the Shushis so far. And yeah, that's this episode. And before we end, I kept postponing this again because I kept forgetting it, but not anymore, not this time, we're finally doing it. On one of my very early episodes, a good friend of mine drew some fan art of humanizing Sirech. It was really good and beautiful, and I loved it. And she did it again with my Lapindust, and it's beautiful. So here, she drew that for me ages ago. I'm sorry it took so long to show it off, but here, it's awesome. If you have any fan drawings you want to show, let me know, and I'll show them here as well, because I appreciate them to the hell and back. They're awesome. Anyway, yeah, sorry this episode took so long to do. You know, next time it's gonna be Christmas time soon, so I guess I should probably start preparing for that episode, so even if I do get ill, I'm not gonna miss it, or at least miss it by that much. Either way, folks, thanks for being patient. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what designs you like, what designs you'd want on your team, which ones you wouldn't. And yeah, I'll see you all in a bit. Toodaloo! Bye! God, that was building up for a few months, that one. Woo!